Everybody, welcome to another episode of Steel Roses podcast. This podcast was created for women, by women. You have Jenny and Melissa today. Hello, everybody.
The last time we recorded together, I could not manage to fit it somewhere in my crazy schedule, and we ended up recording in the car, which worked out. We're going to use that, I think, as backup and bonus content.
Yeah, I'm into it.
This recording, Jet is now flipped. So now
I mean, isn't that appropriate though for like the whole point of this podcast? So now this recording, Melissa had the complication, or last recording was Melissa. This recording, I have a hard migraine, and
she literally has an ice pack.
I have an ice pack like on my head.
And I texted back to her. And I was like, dude, are you sure you want to record? Because that's pretty painful. And look, she's powering through, people. She is powering through.
Not that I want to.
We also only have 30 minutes because Jenny's school.
Because I have to get my kids up for school. Yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot. And I will say this. I don't want to advocate for not taking care of yourself. This is just the reason why I'm kind of just hunkering down through the migraine is because I had to get up anyway. So it's probably best for me to be awake and dealing with the migraine and icing my head and taking medicine.
We thought that this was a good example. Like our whole platform is wanting to reach and, create a community of real women, and this is real.
This is it. This is real life. This is it. I right, like literally 30 seconds before I hit record, Melissa's like, "What are we going to talk about?" And I was like, "Literally this," because I think this is like an incredible example of like you're trying to figure stuff out. We're all trying to figure stuff out. We're all trying to like just fit everything in. And what do you do when, you feel like shit but you still have a full day of stuff? Like 90% of us are like, we have to power through this. I know women all the time that are like, I feel horrible because of X, Y, and Z. I have a migraine because of my age and my hormones. And apparently this is, Melissa, by the by, if you're prone to migraines before you hit your 40s, once you hit your 40s and you start to shift into like perimenopause and like the rest of the good stuff, migraines become more common.
Fun things to look
super fun. All of it is super fun. So
not only do we have to deal with our periods for the first
for like
our life, and then pregnancy, and then labor, and then post pregnancy, then we have to look forward to this.
You have this to look forward to as well. It was a pleasant surprise. I thought it was like I didn't know what was going on and why I was getting them, and then I was researching, and obviously in my work I have access to medical professionals, and it turns out like no, migraines are normal, and I'm like, oh, F off. Like what?
Did they figure out that all your symptoms and everything is related to the? Because remember, you kept going back and forth, or they kept going.
I'm still between. Yeah, no, okay. So, listeners, we're kind of like, well, also Melissa and I are catching up too because we're so crazy all the time. We don't even get a chance to chat. So you're going to hear a little bit of that. So I'm kind of juggling between endometriosis and perimenopause, and some symptoms are common for both. And so I am in the process of working through endometriosis to get towards an eventual surgical treatment option. But in the meantime, I'm having all these really glorious symptoms. And if you have endometriosis, you know exactly what I'm talking about when I say glorious symptoms. And if you don't, just be really grateful that you don't have it.
Endometriosis is something that's very common for women. And I think it's one of, just like all things related to women's health, is one of the most underfunded, under-researched condition that affects a large group of women.
Yeah.
I remember my college roommate had it severely, and they didn't like I'm talking, she would be like double over in bed for multiple days at the start of her period, and they didn't diagnose her till well after we were done with
Yeah,
college. And it's just like,
that's
really?
common.
Like,
Yeah, because the the way that unfortunately the delayed diagnosis is typically 7 to 10 years. Women don't
which
get
is
diagnosed.
crazy.
It's insane. Well, so even, for example, even if like I already knew I had it, even though I know I have it, they still are making me jump through a whole bunch of hoops before they'll
Well, I
sign
was just
off
about to,
on
I was just about to
treatment.
say that. Like, they could fast track this because they know you have it. They know that this is probably what's causing the issue, but they can't because the the diagnosis test that you need, you have to go through the process before they'll be
Yeah,
approved by insurance, which is just insane.
yeah, it
Really.
is.
Sorry, this is a tangent. But again,
Totally
it's
went
the
off.
real
Yeah.
life.
But this is honestly, this is what's happening. Like this is what I've been kind of dealing with. And I got frustrated part of the way through. And I'm gonna tell the whole story at some point. Like I actually am in the process of trying to record the whole thing so I can like put it out there for everybody. But part of the complication for it was like, you have to go for ultrasounds and all this stuff. And I went for one and they're like, yeah, it looks like you have a mass. There's a mass there. There's something on your ovary. Um, so let's wait another 4 to 6 weeks and see if it's still there. And I'm like, wait, but we see something. Like, it's just, it's ridiculous. It's very frustrating. But yeah, so the migraines are like endo related, but they're also um perimenopause related. So I'm like, okay, cool. I still don't like I think maybe I have both. Maybe I'm just being blessed with both. Um Kind of back to the whole like women and coping, because that's what this is. Like you're basically coping and just dealing with it. Um in my travels, in my professional travels, I have the opportunity to hear patients speak. And I was at a conference once and this patient got up to tell her story. She had multiple sclerosis. She had MS. And she explains like the day that she realized that she had it, she woke up. It was like busy day. She had stuff to do. She had work. She had to get out of the house. She had to get all her kids up and going. She had like toddlers. I might start to cry as I tell this story because I like broke in the conference. I was like, oh my God. I was like in my, and professional Jenny tries not to do that, but she's telling her story and she said she woke up and she couldn't see out of one of her eyes. And that's a very typical symptom when you first find out. And unfortunately, because we regular people don't know what these markers are, um, you won't go to the doctor right away, or you'll maybe go to the wrong doctor, and then you have weeks of like trying to track down the right doctor to figure out what this is. She already knew, she already had access because she works in the industry, and so she was able to get to the right doctor right away and she said the right things and got in immediately. But her initial gut reaction when she woke up wasn't like, oh my God, I have to get to the doctor. It was, all right, I can still see out of this eye, so I can still get the kids out of the house. And she still was like, all right, I can still like go about my business. And she said the only reason why she really like went to a specialist, she saw a specialist within days, like within like 2 days of this happening to her, which again is not normal because people don't really realize how quickly they have to move. But she went to work and everything. And then she happened to just tell one of the doctors what was going on. And they were like, you have to go, no, you need to go see a specialist. And she was like, what are you talking about? And was like, she didn't blow it off, but she was like, typical, like kind of mother just in the motions, like, what are you saying? Like, no, whatever. And he was like, no, you need to see a specialist. And that's why she got diagnosed so quickly. It's funny that we're leaning into health here in this conversation, but it's incredibly important that you like pay mind to your symptoms and advocate for yourself, because you could be having something, and I'm not trying to make people paranoid, but like if you don't pay attention to what's going on in your body and you just like write it off, or you're like, oh well, this is just what happens when you hit 30, or oh well, this is just what happens, you could really be like shooting yourself in the foot. You could have something that's treatable that you're able to like, continue on a regular life. But if you sit on it and you sleep on it, that's not going to be the case for you.
Yeah. And I think it's important just in general, and we've talked about this a number of times, that no one else is going to do that, right? No one else is going
Right.
to advocate for yourself, your kids, your family. And I think we both have had personal experiences and have heard from other people where if you didn't push for another test, or if you didn't push for um another, comprehensive overview of your child, or whatever the case may be, that that diagnosis would have happened, or would have happened so far much later that it could
Yeah.
have been serious. You could have had serious issues. Both of our kids in
Yeah.
that case, we
Yeah.
both advocated
We both had to do that.
strongly, and it completely took care of the issue, and it avoided a lot of potential significant impacts later on.
You know, well, because you know the thing I want to say here too is that like I think like for a really long time it was like, well, whatever the doctor says, just take it at word. Melissa, wait, how hard is it to take me seriously that I'm rubbing this ice pack all over my head while we're like recording, by the way?
No, no.
Sorry, viewers, like listeners,
Unfortunately,
I had to stop because I'm literally
my
taking an ice pack and rubbing it all over my head because I'm in like such dire straits. Um,
I unfortunately used to suffer from migraines, and my best friend, she has terrible migraines. Like literally, she sent me via Amazon this. I should get you one actually. It's like this little ice hat that you put in the freezer. Jenny's
I
like
was,
making like a oh my god face.
you don't understand. Like, I was
And
literally just thinking about that. I was just thinking to myself, I wish I had an ice helmet.
and this is what it is. It's like super thin, but it like goes around your entire head. And my friend sent it to me because she knows that I used to suffer from migraines. She's like, just in case you get one. Because I usually do. I mean, thank God it's only like a couple a year now, but I used to be having them at least like twice a month. So,
Let's take a quick break.
Are you interested in podcasting but not sure where to start? My name is Jenny Benitez, and I'm here to help guide you through your podcast launch and maintenance. Check out the link in the episode description for Podcasting Unboxed, your comprehensive startup guide. I am very excited to work with you. I need you to link me to that because I'm not even kidding. When I was walking up the stairs to get to the office, I was like, if I could get an ice helmet, somebody needs to invent that. I totally digress. I'm really sorry. What I was gonna say was that for a really long time it was like take the doctor for their word, and I'm not saying doctors don't
no,
have an
doctors
expertise. They
are
do,
so
but
wonderful.
they're people.
Yeah.
So like that's really the part that I want to highlight because like doctors have to continue to expand on their education. They have to continue to do things. And but like really think about it, like they're experts. They know, let's say like they're like 90% where the rest of us are at 20%. There's still people. Like there's still like there's so much research that comes out consistently. There's almost no way to keep up with it. And these guys are responsible for keeping up with it. And so they do their best, but like, they're not always going to know. And it's okay to come in with an opinion and say, hey, I do that all the time. Hey, I saw this article, or hey, I know this product. I'd really like, I think that this would be a good fit for me. Like, it's okay to come to the table. You don't have to just go with whatever they say.
And I think they're used to that because marketing is so much different. I mean, in the social sciences, there's literally research that's done because it's basically you're studying the way academics and research is being studied, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So you're studying the study.
You're studying the
But
study. I like
one
it.
of the like a portion of that research that's being done is like on pharmaceutical marketing. So nerd facts, but like it used to be that pharmaceuticals used to, well, you know this, cousin, because But pharmaceuticals used to, it was more of a marketing towards the doctors and towards the
Yeah.
physician. And now it's to, the masses.
Yeah.
So now, like, I'm sure, like, they've seen, like, doctors have had to shift their um, perspectives, because now regularly people are coming in and say, "Hey, I saw this ad on TV or whatever," and not saying it's a bad thing, but I think it's I and with the digital age now, like, people have so much more access. But I think it's a good thing to be involved, to be an advocate. Our grandmother always tells that story where one of our family members was having a health issue, and she was like, "I took the doctor at their word, because that's what you did." And
Yeah.
I kept bringing it up that this was an issue, and they kept blowing me off. And she was like, this, but that's what you did. You years
Yeah.
ago, you really did. There was no second opinions. You went to the same doctor for probably 30 years.
Everything.
And
Like there was one town doctor that everybody went to. And my mother has told me like horror stories actually about medical experiences with medical doctors that her and her family had over the years. And I'm like, and she was told me one about like a dentist in the town that did everybody's dental work. And then it came out like 20 or 30 years later, like when everybody was adults. And your mom probably had the same dentist actually. This dentist because all our parents all grew up in the same town. Yeah, obviously like we're cousins, so everyone grew up in the same town. And but yeah, like everybody went to this one town local dentist, and it turned out he was doing unnecessary dental work on people. And like my mom didn't find, like, people started finding out when they were adults because she went to the dentist, and she was like, the dentist was like, "Oh, you've had like a bridge, or you had this or what," and she was like, "What?" Like and then they found out that this dentist like
what?
had he like screwed up people's teeth.
But also, wasn't there a story of someone that everybody went to in town,
Oh, and
and
then he wasn't actually a dentist, right? Yeah.
right, he wasn't actually licensed, and like he had no education, and they were like, "What
That
the?"
might be the same dentist. That might be the same guy. Yeah, isn't that wild? Well, that's like, and it's interesting because like if you really think about this, now like my mother, and her side of the family, like they have like an aversion to doctors, and I'm always getting on them, like, but their view of the medical industry is negative, and it's because they had all these really horrible experiences, and now when we talk about, um like medical doctors, there's like this underlying tone of mistrust from my mother because she had so many experiences that were so poor that like now in her, now that she's older, she's like doesn't really have any faith in the medical industry. Whereas like I obviously work on the marketing side, and I know that there's always like this, POV that it's like medical or big pharma or whatever, it's like, they're money making industry, and they make money off the sick and all that stuff. And I get it. Like I'm a person, like I'm not stupid. I don't live in a bubble. But there's also a lot of good that I've seen come out of it. And like especially for like, not for nothing, like Melissa touched on it, like the patient education side of things, like there's a lot of work done on that side. Like there's quite a lot. There's a lot of money that's put towards patient education because yeah, sure, like at the end of the day, there's profits, there's money to be made. Like I'm again not living in a bubble, but if you use the information that they're putting out there to educate yourself, like you're benefiting from all of this material that goes out. Everything that you see in your doctor's offices, even if it's unbranded and it's not specifically towards a product, like a pharma company has created that for you. Like it's not, it's not all horrible. Like it's always horrible things in the news, and it's not all bad. Like
Well, I feel like you could say that about any corporate company, right? Like
well,
once
true,
things
yeah,
get to, that's the way capitalism operates. And I'm not going to give people a lecture on capitalism, but a farmer takes a big hit. But I think, I'm not saying some companies don't. They do. There's, obviously we've all seen it, but But like you're saying, that there's other sides to the story, just like there is with everything else. And there's certain companies that do an amazing job on patient education and provide, again, it's information is everywhere. And at this point, it's so hard. I think back when our parents were our age, there was so much less information out there. There was less access. There wasn't internet.
That's right.
You're like, we're out of time, people. We're
We
out
got
of
about 5 minutes. Can you
But
go
but
get
I
dressed for
do
early club?
think I'll finish my
Yeah, you're fine.
but I do think nowadays the problem is trying to filter out correct information.
Yes.
And I at least know from the little part of pharma that I do know that there are stringent it has to go through FDA, it has to go through all of these things. So at
Speaking my
least
language.
the information you're getting from there is fact checked. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Well, see, now
So
you touched on something that is like a hot topic. By the way, did you see how easy that was once they get older to just be like, can you go do this? And then they leave. Did you notice that? I know. Be
although I
off.
will say when I've been on meetings for my job lately, and I'll be like, Mia, I have to talk for just like 5 minutes. Can you be quiet? She'll go,
Oh, and she helps
shh.
you.
And then she'll whisper back to me. She'll be like, okay, shh.
Okay, good.
And she'll
Yeah.
like put her finger and go, shh. And I'll be like, Mia. She'll be like, shh. So we're starting to
You're
get to
starting.
the
Yeah. Okay, good. What I was going to say, like there is a load of medical misinformation online, like loads. And my husband will come to me and he'll message me stuff, and my mother messages me stuff, and everyone's like, well, did you see this thing? And I'm like, I just want to make sure that you guys realize that when you see stuff on TikTok or whatever, now there's a lot of
God, those are the worst.
doctors,
That's not
there's
like
a lot of doctors out there that are coming into the space and being healthcare professionals online, and they're putting information out there. I think that's fantastic. I like fully support.
right.
There's a few doctors that I've talked to that I'm like, let me help you out. Like, let me help you figure out how to get in and break into the space. But there's a lot of regular people that are going online and putting their opinion out there. That's the whole purpose of it, right? It's freedom. That's the platform. It's a freedom of speech. Like, put out whatever you want. But the problem is now that if you can't determine what's real and what's not, or what's backed by actual research and what's not, you're going to be following somebody and buying into what they're saying. My husband showed me something the other day, and it actually pisses me off. Like, I could rant about this for a while. It really makes me mad because this woman posted this story. Obviously, it was very obvious to like catch your attention. Like, oh my gosh. And the front creative literally said like, how my addiction to boba gave me kidney failure. Oh, baby. And I was like, that's not accurate. And I was like, that's not real. I was like, that's not real. I was like, there's no way. I was like, I'm sorry, but there's no way. And then you click on the story and it showed a couple of shots like, oh, I tried boba and I loved it. I became obsessed with it and I drank it 6 times a day. And then I had kidney failure. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. Realistically though, like I'm like, all right, it's tapioca. We're talking about we're talking about tapioca pearls. So it wasn't the boba. Like I'm just gonna like put that out there. I don't think it was the boba. And nothing, you should not be going. Yeah, like maybe it's like, there's so many other factors there, but because she put that story out there, that's out there now. And somebody's probably gonna see it and be like, oh, I shouldn't drink this. Yeah, and it's like, people don't do that. Like, they go so far. And I know a lot of it's like, oh, they're trying to get followers, they're trying to get likes or whatever. I get it. Everybody wants to go viral. But this is like, you're putting this out there and people see it and they don't really understand like, oh, this is someone's opinion. This is just a story that they're putting out there. I could tell a lot of stories too. Like, I mean,
Well, it's funny because I'm not on TikTok or WhatsApp, and I know those are like the more popular things with the younger generation. I'm aging myself. I'm literally aging myself right here. But yeah, there's so much misinformation out there, especially when it comes to medical. that you have to work double time to really educate yourself and advocate for yourself.
Hmm.
So just turning around full circle, I think women, mothers, we tend to do this more. Um, and it's exhausting. That's part of, like, remember we always talk about the mental load, like that's part of the mental load for sure.
Yeah, it's that is part of it. And it's true because whenever there's something going on with my kids or my what? Oh. Um Whenever there's something going on with my kids or like my grandkids, even like Melissa has jumped in and helped me research stuff when I'm like, "Oh my God, I don't know what to do." She's like, here's the articles." Like you do have to um you do have to do the research yourself because there's just so much out there that's not correct. And then also like your doctor might not be up on the most current research. Like it is kind of up to you to go in and say,
That was like with the Tylenol, remember? Like that
it,
was
don't don't
I
even,
literally went to when Mia was having one of her, we were dealing with like the tongue tie thing when she was a baby. And I told her dentist, her pediatric dentist, that's the specialist that does usually does the tongue tie releases. And I was like, listen, I don't really want to give her Tylenol because she's under 6 months, so she can't have Motrin. And but I was like, I saw this peer-reviewed journal article, and it's saying that Tylenol is associated with like ADHD and other things. There's a correlation. And he's like, what are you talking about? And like they literally thought I was crazy, but I was like, listen, I'm a PhD student. Like
yeah,
research is all I do all day. And I was like, I happened to come across one of these things for actually a side project that I was helping on. And he was like, I've never heard that. And I was like, all right, well, uh, you know, I don't want to give my daughter Tylenol. So what is the other option? And literally people thought I was nuts at that time. And then last year it came out, this whole big
yeah.
New York Times article came out, and like everybody's up in arms and blah, blah, blah. And like how like, pregnant mothers should not be taking Tylenol. And then young children should not be taking Tylenol because it was associated with autism, ADHD, these different things. And I remember going back to the professional, and they were like, "Huh." They're like, "Sorry about that. We treated you like you were a crazy first time mom." I was like,
Well,
what are you gonna do?" Like, I'm not.
no, honestly, like that's a very real, legitimate thing. And if you're listening to this and you're like, well, one, if you're like, I haven't heard of this, just Google it. It's literally everywhere now. And the other part of it too, um, the other part of it too, speaking personally, I gave all my kids Tylenol, and I took Tylenol when I was pregnant, and I have two that are having problems
Yeah.
at three.
Again, we're not saying that it's a direct, like, if you take Tylenol once, no, but it's like over time through
No,
the
no, it's not. It's not only if you take it once. If you take it once, like,
yeah, it's
listen,
not
if
gonna.
you're
But
pregnant right now and you took it a couple times, like, just stop doing it and then don't do it again.
I took it once too. I had a migraine actually.
Yeah, but like I just didn't think anything of it, and I've always said this too, and I try not to feel too awful and beat myself up about it because one, actually didn't know, so I will say that, like, I didn't know, and then the other bit too is, um, I yeah, I also was in survival mode, and I was like, I'll take whatever. Um, but no, but it's real. It's a legitimate thing, and now I have honestly, 2 out of 3 confirmed that like they're struggling, and I'm like, damn, like
You just don't know
so
what to serve
you
you.
just
But again, we've gone on so many tangents in this episode.
apparently this is our health related episode.
But I think it comes full circle. Our message today: self-care.
Hmm. Yeah,
We
and we're not talking face masks. We mean like
we're
legitimate
talking
healthcare.
like
Yeah.
health, like with Jenny's migraine and the issues that she's experiencing right now. Like, one, self-care. Two, you have to advocate for yourself
Hmm.
and your children. And like sometimes you're going to be looked at like that crazy person, but in the end, I my my thing is always listen to your gut, because I think as women and as especially as mothers, like you really, I don't know about you, but I really do get these like gut instincts
Yeah.
where it's so loud that like literally my mind or myself won't, I can't not listen to it. So it's like, don't
Yeah.
fight against that. Maybe I think
It's there for a reason.
right. I think we're socialized to doubt our intuition, like, oh, you
Yep.
know, being a crazy woman, you're being you're obsessive, you're being too much. But I think that gut instinct, if I would say embrace it now,
Yeah.
little due diligence, find some sound, research that backs you up, and then approach, and this that it could be plumbing, it could be, it could be so many different parts of your life, but especially when it's related to health nowadays.
Yeah. 110%. I honestly couldn't have said that better. That was like
And
the perfect way to sum that up, honestly. Um,
we're not advocating, we're not saying we know better than doctors, absolutely not.
no, 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 no.
But it, I think what Jenny and I both advocate for is just trusting your gut and doing some due diligence. So when you go to appointments or you go to where you're interacting with these medical professionals, it's good to have a foundation and a baseline. So that way you can actively participate in decisions that are being made for yourself and for your family.
Yeah. The term actually, the term that's used in the pharma world is called shared decision making.
Yeah.
That's what they're leaning towards. Yeah. That's
What is that, the terminology?
yeah, the term is called shared decision making, and there's actual legitimate shifts in that direction from the pharma side. They really are promoting like it
Oh,
really needs to be the doctor and patients making this decision together. It is not supposed to be just the doctor spoon feeding you and telling you this is what it is, you know?
honestly,
Um,
if I was a medical professional, I would prefer that too, because I I don't know. I thought about going into the medical world at one point or another, and I just remember being like, oh, I just don't know if I could take on that responsibility, and if my decisions ever led to someone's demise, you know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, I don't think I could psychologically handle that. But um, on one hand, I mean, I'm sure on one hand, if your doctor is getting all of these people coming in with crazy long questions, it can, I'm sure, be frustrating for them at some points. But on the other hand, I would promote that. I would want my patients to participate in their own healthcare and like making sure that it fits for them and for their lives and
Mhm.
their family. So that's
I
great.
think my favorite doctor's offices have they have an MD, but they also have nurse practitioners. And like I love going to the nurse practitioners. I love them. I actually
What
have to give a
is
big
that?
shout out, big shout out to any nurse practitioners out there because they are like to me, I mean, doctors are wonderful, but I was just telling I was telling my mom this. I was like, I always opt for the nurse practitioners because they they will sit with you and talk with you and really have that, one-on-one bedside manner interaction that you really sorely need. And people always skip over them because like, oh, I know I want the MD. And I'm like, don't sleep on the nurse practitioners. They're phenomenal. They have phenomenal training. They're well educated and they're probably a little
Undervalued.
bit, yeah. Oh, totally undervalued, but they're amazing. If you have an opportunity to work with one in your like medical needs, go for it because they're phenomenal. They
And I
are
think,
phenomenal.
correct me if I'm wrong, but like in the training that nurses go through versus the training that doctors go through, patient care, it's given a different emphasis. So I
Yeah.
think sometimes that's why I prefer nurse practitioners, because they do have a lot of the knowledge, but they also have been trained differently to focus on
Hmm.
different areas. So
Yeah.
it's so funny
Which,
because when I was a lowly grad student, like literally I couldn't afford anything but the clinic, like the health clinic at at my campus, and which happened to be fantastic because it was well funded and they have like a medical school on campus and whatever. So but it was a nurse practitioner, and I loved her so much that even when I got real health care, I would go back to her and people were like, why are you still using the a clinic. I was like, believe it or not, she's fantastic.
Yeah.
And she left, and now I'm sad. I still haven't found her.
Yeah.
But
They're amazing. They're fantastic. That my at my OBGYN, the person that I've been working through my endometriosis with is the nurse practitioner. And the only reason why I'm switching to the MD is because I want to have surgery. And she was like, I have to shift you to the MD so that we can like get the ball rolling. She's like, but I'll stay with your case. And I'm like, thank you.
so we digressed a lot this episode.
We did.
But we appreciate, but that sometimes that's what the week looks like. And I think you were right though, Jenny, in saying like, you know what, let's just go with it because this is real life stuff and this is real life survival moments for women. And
literally, yeah, this is and honestly, this is important. It's top of mind, and people don't talk about this. Like, this is not like, if you're, we do always recommend, like Melissa, like kind of summed it up nicely earlier, was just, make sure you are advocating for yourself, educate yourself, look things up. We have the great fortune to be able to do research and educate ourselves, and that wasn't available back in the day. So lean into that, do some research for yourself. And then, you kind of just like have to, again, be an advocate for yourself and make sure that you're coming to the table with an opinion on these things.
100%. And I did want to end this episode because the podcast has gone more international than we expected.
I know, it's cool.
I don't want to get into the nitty gritty because on this podcast, when Jenny and I started this, we've always said we didn't want to go heavily into politics because we never wanted to make our listeners uncomfortable. And we always wanted this to be a safe space for everybody and never feel like, never make anyone feel that we were leaning one way or the other. So I won't get heavily into this, but I did want to end today's episode just saying that no matter what your personal feelings are, I think everyone can agree what's going on in Israel and in the Gaza right now is just horrendous and heartbreaking. And like, especially as a mother, I think we both, like, when we're seeing these images that are coming out of that area right now, like I was literally crying yesterday.
Yeah.
And like, I just had a moment by myself, like Matt and Mia went to the pool and I happened to turn on the news and like they were saying like, please be aware that these are graphic images. And I just saw these children that and there wasn't enough healthcare. Like we're talking healthcare and like the advantages that we have right now here. I mean, there's a lot of things that need to be improved with our healthcare system. Don't get me wrong, but like when I was seeing these images and like there was literally children bleeding and they didn't have enough doctors to care for these people and these families, my heart just my stomach turned inside out.
Well, that particular situation, like I have opinionated on it on LinkedIn quite a bit just because that's my preferred platform. And yeah, we won't go into the nitty gritty, but my baseline is we're all humans and these are people. Like, regardless of where you lay in like red or blue, whatever, none of it really matters. It's the fact that like these are people, these are human beings. So
yeah. And I think we also need to keep in mind, and again, we won't get into like specifics, but I also think that we need to keep in mind that no matter what side you're on, the government, just like in any country, the governments make decisions, but usually it's the people that pay the price.
Yeah.
So no matter what the situation is, my heart just goes out to all those families. And if anyone is being impacted personally, our hearts go out with you.
Yeah.
And we just wanted to acknowledge like how fortunate we are that I don't think anyone in our immediate family is being impacted by this, but it doesn't mean that we're not staying cognizant of what's happening. And, our hearts just are with the people that are being affected.
Yeah, 110%. And that's where I was opinionating on LinkedIn was my support for my connections that were putting out calls to action. They were putting out areas where you can donate. Like I was like, let me repost and share everything that they're sharing, because
1,000%.
it's it as a person, as a mother, as a sister, like it's just
You
pure
just can't
devastation.
imagine. You can't.
No,
We have no ability to like really fathom what those people and
no,
I think it was like 60 Minutes or whatever. They had a family that like basically the grandparents like drove around the police to get to their family. Like, can you just imagine? And along
no.
the way, they're just seeing this carnage. And
Mm-mm.
I
I literally
and,
can't.
and like your breath catches because even if you for a second try to imagine what that could
No.
feel like it's we have no.
If I try, because I've read a lot of articles, like I actually was going deep into it because, my guru Kathy Heller has family over there,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I
Yeah.
was looking into it quite heavily, and I can't begin to imagine it because I'll
Fall apart.
yeah.
Literally. So, but yes, we just wanted to put that out there that we are aware and our heart breaks, and no matter what, we stand with the people that are the families that are being impacted.
Yeah, we stand with the families.
So
That
anyway,
was a nice way to put it.
thank you guys for listening. We apologize that it was a whole.
I know we bounced around, but thank you all for hanging in with us.
And then tune in. Like always, if you have any feedback, if you have any areas that you want us to focus in on, it's Steel Roses Podcast at gmail.com. And then our Instagram handle is Steel Roses Podcast. We'd like to keep everything pretty consistent so you're able to find us easily. So we thank you again. And thanks for tuning in, like always.
Yeah, take care.